Hi, welcome. I'm so glad to see all of you here today. It's Cinco de Mayo, so I have my Cinco de Mayo shirt on. My name is Suzanne Castle, and I'm the founder of the Sparkle Factor and also the Coming Soon Collaborative Leadership and Brilliant Teams model. We're going to hear a little bit about that later today, but I'm glad that you're here because today we are talking about how to be a leader and not a boss. And maybe you think that you do this already. I think a lot of us think that we're leaders, not bosses. My sign is a Capricorn. And so naturally people think that I'm the bossiest butt ever because I have the bossy gene inside of me. It doesn't help that I also have red hair. And it's caused me to kind of delve deeper to say to myself, am I bossing in this situation or am I leading in this situation? And it doesn't matter if you're talking about your workplace, if you're talking about your family, even if you're talking about your friends, being a leader and not a boss is really, really important, and understanding what you can do to rise up and be that. So I'd love in the comments if you would post, do you consider yourself a leader or a boss? You can do thumbs up, you can do leader, boss, L, B, whatever. Just drop it in the comments if you would. Let me know that you're here watching, whether it's live or on replay. What do you think? Do you consider yourself a leader or do you consider yourself a boss? Do you lead people? Or do you just tell them what you want done without any consideration or explanation? I am definitely guilty of that, especially as a mother. Go do this, go do that, take the trash, da, 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 right? Do you take consideration or time to explain things? Do you encourage and develop your team? Do you encourage and develop your family? Or maybe you use criticism because you're protecting your own interests and trying to find ways to do that. Raider is saying hello. The world is definitely full of bosses. And I think right now you're probably all thinking to yourself, what are some examples of bosses and leaders? And I'm going to give you some things to think about in a few minutes in regards to that. But first, leaders are scarce, I think. I think lots of people want to be a leader, but they're really not. There are far too many leaders. And I think that you can really make a name for yourself as a mother, as a friend, as a coworker by becoming a good leader. You enjoy more career opportunities. You'll have far fewer challenges with your employees and your family. And being a leader is so helpful at home. Your kids and your spouse, they would rather deal with a leader than a boss. Think about it. So would you. You'd rather understand why you're doing what you're doing rather than just be told. So I put together a few ideas on how to become a more effective leader, and I thought we would just jump through those for a few minutes. So the first one is one that we have been told since we were kids, which is lead by example. You know, a boss likes to sit on the sidelines and allow others to do the hard work. A leader is definitely out in front of the people showing the way. A leader is involved every step of the way, and a boss tends to just make a request and then walks away from the project or the people. There's the boss who tells everyone, stay late, and then promptly at 5 p.m. leaves to go golfing. There's even a supervisor who criticizes everyone for spending time on the internet, but is discovered buying groceries online in the middle of the afternoon. And there's the CFO who recommends layoffs to stop unnecessary spending, but then buys herself a brand new luxury office furniture suite. If you're in a leadership position, then you know you have a responsibility to your team. They look to you for guidance and strength. That's what part of being a leader is. And a big part of your responsibility is to lead them with your own actions. So you can apply this to your life. If you ask a coworker to do something, make sure you'd be willing to do it yourself. If you implement new rules for your office or for your house, then follow those rules just as closely as you expect everyone else to follow them. For example, how many of us say no cell phones at the dinner table and then we take a call or we shoot a text? If the new rule is no personal calls at work, then you also don't get to talk to your spouse or your loved ones at work. You'll be seen as dishonest, and your staff, your family, they can become angry. And that's when kind of things begin to go off the rails. Look closely at your own behavior. If you criticize people for interrupting, but you constantly do it yourself, you need to fix that. Yes, you want people to pay attention to one another and to listen to your viewpoints. So you must demonstrate that with your body language. Be an active listener. If in the spirit of goodwill, you make a rule for everyone to leave the office at 5 p.m., for everyone to go to bed at 11 o'clock in your house, then you also need to follow that rule. If you stay late to get more work done, your team can feel guilty and they can start staying late too, which then destroys the whole purpose of the rule. The same is true for like a lunch break. If you want your team to take a full hour to rest and relax, then you've got to do that too. So think about that. Really, really important. It is really important to lead by example. Another thing to think about is that leaders are driven by a purpose. There's an overall goal or mission. And so the people following the leader, they must be inspired. They must be empowered. The people must understand the mission. This is very different than providing a to-do list, let's say. So how many of you have done that? Here's the to-do list, now go make it happen. But you don't give any context, whether at home or at work. You need to keep telling the story. You need to keep sharing the why. You need to make sure there is buy-in to your end goals. That is the way to excel. And then notice when others aren't following and then find out why they're not following. Maybe your mission isn't in alignment, or you need to go back and cast it again. The same definitely holds true for your families. When everyone knows what the family system is working towards, it makes it easier to be on track. So if things feel a little wonky, maybe go back to this and think, what is my purpose? What is my why? What is my mission? And how are we or how are we not making that happen? Another thing that leaders over bosses do is leaders delegate. I know this can be hard, but bosses tend to micromanage. How many of you right now micromanage? I know, we are all guilty of it at some time or another. But a leader trusts the people. A boss struggles to relinquish any control. We're seeing that a lot in the marketplace right now. People are going like this about releasing control when people are working from their homes and they want them to check in all the time. It's really hard, but a leader trusts. A leader surrounds him or herself with people that complement the weaknesses of the leader. A boss just simply hires people that don't make that person feel threatened, right? Because the boss always has to be the most important person. The boss always name drops. The boss can threaten even with actions, like how you stand in a body language, what your tone is. But leaders delegate. And think about it this way. Bosses always have a weaker team. The team can't accomplish as much because they're not empowered. The team is also weaker because the boss doesn't want strong employees that might shine brighter than the boss does. It's a very real problem at home and at work. Another thing that leaders do is leaders value respect. A boss wants to be feared. Think about it, right? There's punishment. There's things that don't happen. They want everybody standing at attention when they walk in the room, right? On the surface, it might seem similar to say that leaders value respect, but the differences are really striking. A leader is willing to use enthusiasm or skill, even expertise, to encourage others to respect and then follow. A boss uses fear. A boss uses threats. A boss uses compliance and not compliance, and then punishment for non-compliance. Does that make sense? You see, leaders have the best wishes of their followers in the forefront of everything that they do. Those that follow a boss sometimes secretly want the boss to fail. So I don't want you to fail. So think about that next time. Are you engendering respect in everything that you do? The next one may seem like duh, but gosh, everywhere I go with my clients, I'm always talking about how a leader develops leaders. A leader develops new leaders. A leader constantly works on leader development. You see, a true leader is constantly creating employees with knowledge and with experience to take the place. I'm always saying I should be working to work myself out of my own job so people could rise up and do it on their own. A boss, though, is afraid of competition. A boss is afraid he'll be replaced. A boss is self-centered to be concerned about the career aspirations of his own employees because it's all about me. So make sure that you're constantly imparting knowledge, that you're giving opportunities for people in your organization or your family to try new things and then fail if needed. See, developing resilience is a key factor of leadership, so people have to practice it, and you have to be there with respect, with trust, so that you can continue to develop new leaders. And if you are not already, you need to have some kind of system in place to replicate leaders. Spend time on training. It's just as important as marketing if you're in business, because people will leave you. But leaders, people want to stay. They want to be a part of something exciting. Which brings me to the thought that leaders know how to motivate. They know that no two employees are the same. So when you just try to put people in cubicles and you put them in separate lists, they know employees well enough to know, instead, I'm going to inspire them. I'm going to work with them one-on-one. A boss will simply say, it is what it is. This is what needs to be done. You can always look for another job if you don't like it. But leaders, they use positive techniques for motivation. They come alongside you. Remember, we talked about that in the beginning. They'll do the job just as you would do the job. And bosses, though, they tend to criticize every step of the way. So check yourself and see it, like how you're doing on that. Are you working in a motivational level or a critical level? Finally, the last thing I wanted to share with you today is how leaders take responsibility. When the team fails, the leader is the one who's still out in front, and the leader is taking the brunt of the criticism. But bosses, well, bosses try to absolve themselves as much of responsibility as possible. Let that sink in for a minute. A boss is quick to blame employees. A leader blames him or herself. I'm sure you can think of 2 or 3 examples right now when you've seen a boss mentality. Now think of 2 or 3 leaders who have taken it on the chin for the good of the team. Who do you want to emulate? I want you to think back over your work history. You've had plenty of bosses. Hopefully, you've had a couple of leaders too. It is not enjoyable to work for someone that fits into the boss category. I think sometimes we feel like we're operating in the dark with a little support and few development opportunities. And it is so much more enjoyable to work for a leader, and it's more enjoyable to be a leader. So develop your leadership skills. You're going to be helping yourself, your employees, and your family, I promise you. And as I said, I want you to be sure and mark your calendar for May 14th at 2 p.m. Central. See, here's what I'm doing. I'm doing a free masterclass. Now, this is something that I would get paid probably, about $500 to $1,000 to go in somewhere and lead in a workshop environment or a keynote. But I am doing this because we are all in this together and the world is a wonky place. So I'm leading a free 1-hour masterclass on how to become a brilliant leader with collaboration, with dynamite communication, and you won't want to miss it. So stay tuned on this page because details are coming, and I've limited seats so that we can have some interactive time. So this virtual training will be limited, and I will be taking reservations for it. Don't forget, May 14th, 2 p.m. Central. It's in about 10 days from now, and I will see you on the flip side. Be a leader this week. I believe in you. I am Susie Ann Castle, and I can't wait to see you again. Have a terrific week.